Hi, it's Sandra here from Create in Spain, and today is just a little product review. And the reason for that is because I've just spent a few days in the UK and I had a chance to have a look around some craft shops there. So I picked out a few items that I thought were of a reasonable quality and at the same time were none too expensive. Now, one of the things that I wanted, which I found it impossible to find any really decorative ones, was the crafting split pins or brads. Now, I ended up with these, which are mini ones. So if I put my finger against here, you can see that they're relatively small. I think they are probably about ½ centimetre in diameter compared to normal stationary brads. And I know that I can paint these. If I want to paint them different colours, I can. If I want to make them glittery, I can do that. So I picked up a packet of these because this seemed to be the most useful item. This cost me £1 and there are, I think it was, it doesn't actually say on there how many's on there. There's probably about, I don't know, 50, something like that, I would guess. I thought it said on the packet, but I can't see it there now. No, I can't see how many. Well, I said this was £1, so I don't think that's too drastic. And I know that it will be quite useful. They did have another packet which was in like a little heart-shaped container, and they were really tiny. But I thought actually probably not so useful for me because as soon as you poke a hole, the head will probably go through it. It was that small. So that's the first thing. Second thing I picked up are mini dots. Now, I have been into shops before now where they've said they've got mini dots and they were huge, but these aren't too bad. Again, this packet cost me £1 and there's 64 in here. And I don't know if you can actually see the size. You might just about be able to see the size of them. I think they are probably about 75 mil, something like that. So they're not extremely small, but they're quite thin. They're not going to add any bulk. And I think these might be quite handy. So I did pick up a couple of packets of those. So that's that. Right. I found some holographic card and I've taken it out of the cellophane wrapper solely so you can see the different designs that are here. This is the sort of thing that might come in very, very handy around Christmas time. It's very shiny and it is card, it's not paper. Now this one I've just noticed has got a slight line going through the pattern. So I will be wary when I look at these to make sure that the pattern join isn't going to be anywhere I don't want it to be. But we have the red, we have the silver, 2 of the purple, 1 of gold and 2 of green. So a reasonable selection of colours. So that's those. The other things I have are some card and paperbacks. Now these cost me £1.99 each. As you can see, I wrote the prices on the back so I wouldn't forget. And they had several different designs of these. I've chosen something relatively innocuous that I could use for almost anything. The paper patterns, or the card patterns I should say, are very pretty. They're one-sided and it is all card. So these are A5, so if you wanted to make a card you simply fold it in half. Alternatively, if you're looking for a patterned paper to add accents to a card, it means you don't have to cut into a big piece of card to do it, which I think is quite nice. And does it actually say, yes, it's 200 GSM. It looks like a nice quality card that will cut very easily, and if you have a cutting machine this will cut no problem whatsoever. And then this one I will show you. I've got a couple of sort of retro designs in there and some more modern ones. And so they're colour coordinated, so you can just pick up a pack of whatever type of colour you like. And I think that's pretty good. For £1.99 each, I'm quite happy. And there are, how many sheets are there in there, thinking about it? 32 sheets per pad. Now this one was the most expensive item I purchased, and it was £2.99. And this is 30 printed sheets. The card is double-sided. You have 15 sheets of 120 GSM and you have 15 sheets of 250 GSM. So the card is at the back. There are some metallics in here. This one, I don't know if you can see the metallic on it. So there are quite a few metallics in there and some non-metallics. Very, very pretty. There we are, some more metallics. And then that's still the card, that's still card. And now we're onto the papers, so you have the coordinating papers as well. And I think this is pretty good value for money. And I've chosen again something that can be used for a lot of different projects. I try and avoid card that has like a pattern across one corner or just around the edges, because those are not quite so usable. Now, they didn't have too many of this size in stock at the time, but you know, stock goes up and down as it does everywhere else. So basically, well done to the range for stocking some decent craft items. They had a significant amount of craft items in there, a lot of things that I'm not interested in, such as stamps. I'll make my own. They had metal dies in there. They had a selection of artist materials, so you could get oil paints, acrylic paints, that sort of thing. They had embossing powders, ink pads, all sorts of things. I mean, I had to be very careful what I chose to bring back because I was coming back from the UK with merely hand luggage. And so I couldn't take liquid items very easily. I'd already got my fill of those. And I didn't have much space in my bag, so it's a case of cram as much as I could in and carry my jacket because I couldn't any longer get it in my bag. So there we go. If you are looking for craft items and you don't want to pay a fortune, you can try the range. Having said that, the range also sells branded cards at the usual price, like the 12-inch square ones that are, I think, $14.99 a book. I wasn't interested in buying those. They did have one of the cheaper ones, the 12 by 12. There was only one of those, I think, left in the store at the time. But again, it was designs that I wasn't interested in purchasing. But in general, they had far more craft items in it than Hobbycraft, for paper crafters at least. So yeah, if you have a choice between the two, I'd go to the range first and then try Hobbycraft for anything that you don't mind paying more for. Here is another item that I purchased recently, or at least I got my husband to order it for me off of Amazon. And it's holographic glitter. Now it came in a pouch, one of these zip pouches, and I think it was 100 grams. And this is a jam jar that I'm storing it in because it's easier to do that than it is to use a pouch. It's very pretty. You probably don't get the full effect of it under the camera, for which I apologise, but I can't do much about that. And it is basically a silver looking colour, but it has lots of shimmer in different colours, and it's really, really gorgeous. Now it's a fine glitter, but it isn't a powder glitter, okay? So I thought I would see what it could be used for. And the first thing I did was I added a little bit of it to some clear embossing powder, and this is the result. In here there is about half a teaspoon of the glitter, and the rest is the embossing powder. And the result for that is, now where have I put it? Lost my sample temporarily. Okay, here we go. This is the result. So it probably looks a little gold underneath the camera from what I can see on my screen here, but it's not. It's actually silvery, and it does have a fair amount of a different colour in it. It's definitely flashing up lots of different colours, from pinks to greens and yellows and things, so quite a nice effect. Now here I've got it, you might be able to see it more clearly. I've put a glue pen base down here and just dipped it in the glitter, and then I just left it overnight, brushed off any excess, and that's really, really pretty. It will look great on cards. And I've got one here which I put onto wet nail polish, just normal nail polish, just wet to act as a glue, and that is really, really super sparkly. And on the other side, I put the polish on, I let it almost dry, and then I rubbed, excuse me, that's my oven telling me my bread's ready. I put it on and I rubbed it in, so it's actually quite smooth, whereas this is, it's not really, really rough. It feels like an emery board. I think that's the yeah, it feels like an emery board, whereas this feels quite smooth. Okay, and I then put some over cured black gel paint, and again this is very smooth. Now if you're doing this, you can't use a tacky layer, so it has to be the non-tacky variety, and that worked quite nicely. So yeah, I think it's a good buy, and it was very, very cheap. This amount of glitter cost me £2, and my husband said, oh, it's actually gone down in price, it was £1.90 last night. So there we go, just something else that you could add to your collection, and it's definitely very, very sparkly, very pretty, and well worth the £2. That's it. Thanks very much for watching. Take care now. Bye bye.